Hi, Jack.
Hi, Charles.
First of all, any injuries from the weekend? How's your squad looking?
No, just as we are, obviously Lewis, Kyle, and Scott Allen still absent. But Christian has trained this morning, Christian Deutsch, so hopefully we'll see how he reacts. But hopefully, at least we'll be able to return to the squad for tomorrow night.
You said after the game that the players were a bit flat on Saturday. Have they regained their vigor? Are they now kind of over that in some respects, that disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, very much so. I think once that immediate emotion of obviously the disappointment of conceding so late, given how they played in the game subsides, I think they do take a step back and appreciate the good things they had done within the game and why they had put themselves in a position. It's not discounting either the disappointment or being able to win the game from that position we found ourselves in. But we stressed the importance of them not dwelling on it, and certainly when they were back in on Sunday morning, and then again today, there's been more. I would say more just evidence of the fact that they feel confident given how they played for large parts of that game.
Do you feel confident that they can play like that every day, every game, and every week, and thus, maybe not, take the positives from from Saturday's game, and that'll put you on another good run of results? Do you feel that they're able to do that week in, week out now?
I haven't really doubted it, to be honest, because of how we've been this season, because of the way in which we've played in the main and the results we've achieved. We've had a couple of bumps, but we'll get that even between now and the end of the season again. So the response is important, and that response has been good. And then even taking Saturday in isolation, the fact that we played in a system that we haven't really done this season, we played in a slightly different manner to counter what Celtic would do within the game. So that again was pleasing, the players' ability to play in a different way and find a different way, trying to get something from a match. So I think if anything, it's only just strengthened my belief in the group. I've got a lot of trust in them, and thankfully to date they've repaid much of that trust as well.
When you consider the team you played tomorrow night, obviously it was a funny old game up in Perth a few months ago. Since you've played them, they've gone on a very good run themselves. They were struggling when you faced them. How different a St Johnstone team do you reckon you'll face tomorrow night?
I genuinely don't think too much difference in terms of the performance level, because I felt when we played at McDermott Park it was a hard game. There was much in it, and everything I'd seen of Callum's side pre that game, and then since that I've had the opportunity to see them live as well. That I think they are a good side, and they've played a fairly consistent system and style over the course of the season, and I think Callum's got faith in that, and they've shown it recently. They're on their own, so I think the difficulty with the opponent remains the same. I would argue that we are probably in a better place than them, because although our early season results were good at that point, I think we have performed better as the season's gone on as well. I think we've got stronger. So in that sense, we go into the game feeling good about ourselves, and then in the back it also, our record at Easter Road this season has been very good as well.
Cheers.
Thanks, Charles.
Jack, it's obviously hard, if you like, to practice these scenarios, because you don't necessarily go into the game saying, right, when we're 2-0 up and there's about 10 minutes left to play against Celtic, this is what we'll do. How do you kind of capture the learnings from the last few minutes of the game and make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, it depends on the circumstances in which you concede. First of all, I always look at what I do. So, and that's from a tactical point of view. So, if you feel as if you have got things wrong, then that's something you can adjust and you can learn from personally. If it's things that the players have done in terms of not following instructions or playing in a shape or a system that wasn't what you wanted to do, again, that's a learning curve for them. And then you get circumstances like Saturday where you could probably attribute it to just to individual mistakes at the wrong time in the game, and that is the fine margins that will define football matches constantly. So it depends on how you reflect upon it. As I said, and often you have to find which one of those it fits, and if it is the last one, sometimes there's not an awful lot you can do about it, and then there's no point in dwelling too much on it.
As you said, I was speaking to Callum a lot. They weren't getting the goals that perhaps their forward play merited. They've hit the back of the net with regularity, as you have throughout the season. It should be a very, very interesting matchup on Tuesday. How do you go into that kind of game? Because obviously you're at home. Do you begin to take the game to them from the off and just try and dominate?
Well, I think there's an onus on us all the time when we play Easter Road in the main to be in the front foot. And a lot of these games we have been this season at home, we've had different challenges and different matches. Saturday being one of them, but I think there isn't an awful lot between the bulk of the teams in the Scottish Premiership. I think you see that on a weekly basis in terms of how results go. So we will have to play well to win the game tomorrow evening. I think that's the one thing that we're certain of. I don't think we can get away with going in and being average or below average and getting a result. So I think they'll always respect for the opposition, the challenge they pose. And Callum is somebody that I know personally, I've known personally for a long time, and I think the progress he's made as a manager this season has been what I would have expected. So, but I look forward to the challenge. I said, I think for us going into the game again on the back of a couple of better results in the back of previous disappointments is encouraging for us as well.
Finally, from me, obviously there's a couple of managers very upset, lost players by association from the under-21s. Obviously Ryan, amongst others, was out there. You were able to have him play. What did you make of that all? And is there anything that maybe the SFA or could or should do in the future to stop happening?
Well, first of all, I can be a bit more pragmatic about it because Ryan was available. So I can understand the frustration of other managers who were forced to be without players. Secondly, I'm not privy to exactly what was on in international trips and camps and the protocols that they follow. I think Ryan has spoken about the need to adhere to strict policy like we do at club level. So I think it'd be remiss of me to finger point and apportion blame because I don't know. And if it isn't anything like that, if it is just sheer misfortune, then I think we need to take that into consideration when we start to look at clubs. So, we've had clubs that have been investigated recently. Now, is that down to them not doing things properly? I would hazard the guess and say no, because a lot of the clubs I know are following the guidelines. And if it is a misfortune, then you need to be accommodating to that. That's the only thing I would say. I think is if I said without being privy to exactly what goes on, I think there just needs to be a consistency of how we judge these types of situations.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
What's your experience of maybe the game after a Celtic or Rangers game? Is it a game where players maybe have to put more into it, just physically, mentally, emotionally, especially with the way it went as well? Is that something you have to take into account if you're playing 3 days later as well?
It's a fair question, and again, it will depend on sometimes how the game pans out. The way the game was for us on Saturday, although we spent more time without the ball than with it, so sometimes that points to you having to do more work. We also were quite compact in our work within the game, so in some areas of the pitch we did less running than we would do normally. Different types of running, if you like. So it's not always it doesn't always go hand in hand that the calibre of the opposition will determine how hard you work within the game. There's different factors involved in it as well, but the emotional energy that you use and the concentration you use in those games is usually very high. But as always, I think it's just judging the players based on your naked eye first of all and your feel for the group, and then seeing if it's supported by what you get from your performance department as well. But for me, the players over the last 2 days have been good. They look bright, they look lively. I think they're in a place just now where they're looking forward to each game when it comes around.
And I suppose once the disappointment subsides over the late equaliser, you can accentuate the positives of the way they played as well. Does that help going into Tuesday as well?
I think if we take the 2 games against Old Firm at Easter Road in isolation, we've drawn both games 2 each. But because we come from behind to draw 2 each against Rangers, there's a different feeling after the game than Saturday. But you only earn 1 point in each of those games. So in reality, your reward is exactly the same. So I think that's why it's always important to take that step back and almost use a clear head to assess was it a good day for us or not. The end part of the game would suggest it wasn't, but there was large parts of it that were encouraging for us, and particularly even when we look at the 2 performances against Celtic this season and the end result, to learn from the first one and to then play as well and take something from the second game shows that there's improvement as well.
Cheers.
Jack, I know you said sort of you played a different type of system against Celtic. Is that something you can take into other games against games like St Johnstone and teams like that? I know it's a very different game against Celtic and you'll be expected to take the game to St Johnstone, but can you use it going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've done well this season. In fairness, we have changed the way we've played and how we've set up, depending upon sometimes what we want to do to the game, how we think the game will go on, and then sometimes it will happen with the personnel that you have available. So the pleasing thing for me is almost every time we've had to do that, the players have responded. It's encouraging for me to show that they can take on the information and they can learn it quickly. Because through the course of a season, it's not like you have weeks and weeks of preparation, pre-games. So Saturday was another example of us playing in a different way and the players doing it well. So as I said, it gives me cause for optimism in terms of how we've set up pre-games.
Jamie Murphy, obviously his quality's never been in doubt, but you really seen the best of him on Saturday.
Well, I think he's benefiting from consistency of running games. That's been something that's been difficult to get for him. In recent times, I think when he went on loan to Burton, we've seen the benefits from him when he's playing week in, week out. So it's been a little bit of stop-start here, but he's now beginning to get a run of games. And the one thing I've been challenging him on is his goals and assists, because it's what we brought him here for. And if we take the last two games, he's obviously on the score sheet at the weekend, and he has an assist against Dundee, an assist at the weekend. So that is encouraging for him, and I just think he's going to keep getting better. I think he's pleased that we have another game so quickly, because I think it allows him to get that momentum of playing games week in, week out.
Must be particularly pleasing for him to obviously had that really bad injury a couple of years ago now, and Burton was sort of the first spell that he got a consistent run of games, and now hopefully it Hibs.
Yeah, I think the Burton spell for him obviously gave him that confidence again in his knee, and he's not had any issues with that. He obviously suffered a minor hamstring injury with us early, which he's never had before. So I think by and large he's been fit and available, and he's felt good. He doesn't miss training with me. Trains every day, and as I mentioned, I think he's a player that thrives on playing every week or every game when they come around, and that's encouraging for me. As I said, I think the more games he plays in succession, I think the better he'll get.
Jack, can I just ask you about your year and 1 week in charge? How pleased are you with the progress that's been made at Hibs since you've arrived?
I think that it's been a strange year, obviously, because of the prolonged break in the midst of it. But judging it, and if you're just judging it on a piece of paper, obviously feels as if we made progress. I think we're eighth in the table when we came into the job, and we're in the fourth at the moment and pushing to be higher than that. So that suggests we're making progress. I think that I'm pleased with how we recruited in that period. I feel pleased with how we've probably made the squad leaner, but hopefully a little bit younger and a little bit more effective. So I feel as if we're going in the right direction. An awful lot of hard work to go to make sure we're a consistent force at the level we're at the moment. Obviously, as I said, we've had a couple of bumps along the way, but in the main, enjoyed it very much, and as I said, certainly feel as if we're going in the right direction.
And I think around about half of the Premiership managers have been in post for about 18 months to 2 years or more. Do you think that during this strange time for football that clubs are being a bit more patient and a little bit more understanding of letting their managers really put their imprint on the club?
Possibly. Cynically, maybe because we didn't have games for 6 months, which obviously helps you stay in a job, and then maybe they're on it wanting to sack people. So there would be a counter argument to that. I would love to think it's what you said, and that people are taking a more balanced and patient approach to it, because in all seriousness, I think to have a chance of success at a football club, you do need time. Every manager will say that, and people would assume they would say that because it keeps them in a job. But it's not easy to have instant and quick success. I think you do need a substantial period of time in order to try and take things in the right direction. And if that's a byproduct of the current climate, then hopefully that will be beneficial for managers and clubs as well.
And Stevie Mallon earlier on mentioned just the impact of having an extended pre-season. Do you think that's really benefited Hibs this year?
Well, I think for us it was good because not necessarily from a fitness point of view, but just I think we had time that we hadn't had when I came into the job about really working hard at how we wanted to play and what we wanted to do within games, and we had a little bit of extra time to do that as well. So although we would have done a lot of work in the training pitch, our hands were forced into even more because of the length of the pre-season period and also the difficulty in playing pre-season matches. So I enjoyed it, and I do feel as if it has stood us in good stead. I think it was one of the reasons why we had a good start to the season, and hopefully why we've continued to do so.